So he's raised the angel round. You're now raising the first venture round.
Tim's at EIR at Boulder Ventures, and Kyle's comes into the picture on this one. So.
Well, Ryan first sent me the business plan while we were on the boat, and I read it, and it was after dinner, and it was a beautiful day, and we might have had a few drinks, and I just ripped it. I just said, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. It'll never have any success. But on the boat, we had a satellite phone for data, so we'd queue things up. And I knew I shouldn't send it, so I put it, in drafts, or I left it up. And Jerry got on the computer and sent it because she wanted to check email, right? And you had to send it to check email. Oh boy, he was pissed. We probably had 3 fights or so in our professional career in 20 years, but he was pissed, and I was not polite at all. So that was my first introduction to the company. He did convince me to invest, and I have to tell you, I didn't invest in the idea. I invested in the person because I was sure he'd figure it out. And quite frankly, the space that we were attacking isn't the space that we're attacking today. So I'm going to say I was at least a teeny bit right in at least the market focus of the product. And then, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, Ryan was kind of at wit's end. We were out of money. He was out of money. I was on the board, so I helped him a little bit. And I helped him recruit some folks. But the company was out of money, and we couldn't get a fundraising done. And Ryan was going to run the company as the CEO. Kyle Lufkoff came and said, we'll just put these 2 companies together, or 2 people together, and we'll make it work. And we'll fund it, and Brad will fund it, and we'll get the deal done. So that's exactly what we did. And Ryan stepped down from being the CEO to the CTO, which, is kind of a hard thing to do. We got together in a room, we got on a whiteboard, we said, well, what do you really want to do? And it's like, I want to do this, and what do you really want to do? And I really want to do this, and we lined them up, and there was no overlap. I mean, we truly like to do different things. We share a common viewpoint and mental model, but we're very different people, and somehow we figured out how to make that harmonious. So I joined the company commensurate with our Series A fundraise as the CEO, and the rest is history.
How was your first year at Rally?
I think it was probably the worst year of my professional career. I'm not sure if I've ever shared this. I don't know.
That was a leading question.
And I'm not exactly sure why. I mean, I had some personal things going on, but it is hard to come back off the boat and go back to work. But we didn't have any customers, so we didn't have any positive feedback from the market or from our customers. Ryan is a turtle, and he can just keep moving and crawling forward and making progress. I need more positive feedback. It's why I didn't succeed in the PhD program in finance, quite frankly, because it is not a positive feedback environment. So not having any customers that are willing to pay us real money meant that it was all 100% at risk, and there was potential for a complete zero. I hated that.
So your Series A was 2004?
Three.
So 2003, tough year. 2004, 2005, you start having customers. You raised some more money.
Yeah, we got Don on in the end of 2004.
Yep.
We got Gene Tabeka, a local coach, on in the end of 2004. We had some early customers, handful, 20 or so, paying us subscription revenue. And I think 2004 was 50,000 in revenue.
Yeah, just met the hurdle of the fastest growing companies, which gave us a growth rate of like 4,000% in 2 years.
Right.
So we've invested $3.5 million, and at the end of, we rewrote the entire prototype, we threw it in the trash, and we had $50,000 in revenue for $3.5 million in investment in what was now 6 man years of work.
You talked about sniffing evil and the scarring experience of having to work with someone at a critical stage. How did that translate into the early hires that you made at Rally and the vetting process that you went through there?
We hired folks we knew.
Yeah.
The BEA thing was off. Steve had taken some time off. We picked him up. Two people that we had worked with before at back in US West days in early '94. We picked up a couple of key engineers out of BEA that were on the services side, and so that first team was all known. And then we kind of slowly started vetting different people along the way, mostly with contract to hire kinds of terms. If it wasn't someone we didn't know. So we would hire you on a contract. If that worked out, we could extend that into an offer, but we were having people work on projects.
But we've also hired, we hired a VP that got demoted to a director. We hired another VP that we fired 3 or 4 months later. We hired another VP that we fired a year plus later. We hired another VP that we fired 6 months later. There might be another VP, right? So it was bloody, and it's part of my core beliefs on how you build a great company. You get rid of the folks that don't fit culturally, because back what I said earlier is one person can ruin the whole business.
The rally today is how many people?
We have probably 155 on payroll, and then maybe another 20 contractors.
When you wind the clock forward a year, how many people do you think you'll be at the end of this year?
I think we're hiring about 75 on the current plan, but it's probably a little aggressive.
Before you leave the historical contract, could you talk a little bit about where the Rolodex failed in terms of bringing customers on board, or as the market focus was not correct, right? Because clearly you guys had customers in mind, you had good connections, you had built up over a long period of time that Rolodex. But it's failing at this point.
Well, no, so we did. I don't know that I would have said it failed. I would have said we got some early customers, a lot of locals, and some other pieces. The BEA thing never came to pass. They ended up finding something else, and they didn't get agile. The team that we had come from really, because it wasn't really the older team anyway. We generated all our leads inbound based on people who were interested in agile, that were self-describing. Based on basically pay-per-click.
The failure was in fundraising, not in the product.
Yeah.
So
undercapitalization is what you're...
No, I couldn't raise money by myself because I couldn't tell a story to investors because I couldn't put their hat on. I could tell you what was going to happen in the marketplace, but that didn't transfer into dollars to make a successful company. Put the two of us together.
You just didn't get it?
Oh, no, that wasn't his problem, but I'm not going to speak for him, but I don't think that was the problem.
I'm interested, when you invested, was it the people or was it the plan or a little bit of both?
It was probably both. The dynamics that I remember this cycle, and I would separate sort of 2 points in time, because I know where your question's coming from, which was $50,000 of revenue after $3.5 million invested. That was actually about what was expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were doing fine. Yeah, they were on track. The issue was the subscription model. They were selling these 3-year projects, and the monthly revenue that they were getting was relatively small, but because it's recurring, it built very nicely. Brad, to your question, I was very interested in investing in Rally, and Mobius had a good history of making some investments in software tools companies. We had a few others that had been very successful over the years, and I was pretty comfortable with that personally. I think there was dissonance around the idea, and culturally within Mobius, the idea of us doing an investment by ourselves as a firm. It was very negative towards that, and this was sort of post-bubble. So we'd also been through our own bullshit, and I'd had a lot of success pre-bubble, and then a lot of stress. Sort of 2001, 2002, and sort of the general tone within Mobius as a firm was, hey, Brad, sounds great, find somebody else to do it with. That was kind of the tempo. And so in Foundry, we don't subscribe to that. We're happy to do stuff by ourselves. But at the time, whether I didn't have enough juice or courage or whatever to get it done, what happened was essentially, in the venture community, there tends to be a lot of early stage venture firms who are afraid to make investments by themselves. And especially sort of right post-bubble, you had a lot of that mentality. Everybody wanted, hey, if somebody else is interested, that might validate it, that'll help us leverage things, et cetera. And I think when I was in Alaska when all this happened, I remember Ryan called me and said, hey, Kyle's forcing Tim on me, was basically what he said. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, Kyle said and you've been pitching Boulder for a long time. I mean, Tim had been working on Boulder coming in, And I think I had basically said, hey, I'm in if we can get something to come together. And I said to Ryan, well, before you react emotionally to it, just wear it for 24 hours. You know, you guys have worked together before. Don't react. I think you called me right after you'd had the conversation.
Oh, sure.
I said, don't react, just sit with it. And well, let's talk tomorrow. And when you called me back the next day, he's like, I think this is a great idea. So once that sort of emotional piece had worn off,